Welcome to The Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of The Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to The Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. Each and every one of us has an opportunity to increase our level of awareness, raise our level of consciousness, to understand what is happening in our conscious and, more importantly, what's happening in our unconscious minds at all time, to understand what thoughts might come from the beliefs that we have formed over our lifetime, especially in our early years. And in that discovery, we can move from just doing in our lives to being in our lives, in our relationships and our businesses. We can move into that place where we can be in alignment with our purpose. And once we align with our purpose, we will be able to use that as a blueprint to make decisions in our lives. We can understand when the chaos or the disruption that we're experiencing might be an evolution in our mindset, an evolution in our way of being. Or it might be a signal or a sign that we're out of alignment with who we are. And once we understand the difference in our evolutions and when we're out of alignment, now we can step more fully into who we are and what we're here to bring to the world. I'm with Andrea Freeman today, and Andrea started her first business when she was 12 years old. 3 businesses and a lot of learning later, she was hosting red carpet celebrities in her event planning business. But she felt unfulfilled. And she said to herself, there has to be a better way. That pivotal moment prompted a soulful search. Today, Andrea is a mindful business coach working with creative entrepreneurs to help them align with their unique purpose and their intuition so they can more easily grow a successful, impactful, and profitable business. She is also an engaging and insightful speaker who draws on her experience as both an entrepreneur and a mindfulness business coach to deliver programs based on her groundbreaking coaching methodology. Andrea Freeman, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I'm here. Let's do it. Excited.
Excellent. I'm so grateful to have you on. As I've done some research preparing for our show today, I'm so amazed at how aligned we are on so many things. And I really enjoy bringing that into the sharing that we do, especially as the imagination really gets to learn more about themselves and really steps fully into who they are. Talking about unique purpose and intuition and really aligning with themselves is so important. So I appreciate what you bring to the world and what you're bringing to this few minutes that we're going to share with the imagination.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of synergy. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Tell me, Andrea, a little bit more about yourself. Your bio is full of great things, but I know there's so much more about you. Could you tell us a little bit more about you and about what you're doing as a mindful business coach?
Yeah, sure. So I live outside of New York City, about 90 minutes north of the city, and I live with my husband and 5-year-old daughter. And for years, I was back and forth between the city and, as my event planning company took me around the world, and over time started to really feel a pull for a pace that's more sustainable and a business that feels as good as it looks. So a lot of personal development work really since, 13 years old, I picked up my first mindfulness book and started meditating. and have pulled it together with the work that I've done with really high level clients and red carpet celebrities and very high net worth clients. So got to notice, because as an event planner, you work very intimately with people. You see inside their world, how they treat their inner circle, the activities they engage in, what kind of business they're taking part in, how they're making business decisions. And I really got to see that and map it on with what was working in my own business, what was causing my own growth and success. And that's what led me to create the host methodology and really the business coaching that I have going on right now. So that's kind of the short synopsis of the career path.
Tell me a little bit more about the event planning business and what really helped you step fully into now coaching.
So this is interesting. Event planning is not something that I felt like I knew at a young age that I wanted to do. Quite honestly, when it was time to go to college, I didn't even know it was a thing you could do. But at 16 years old, I had the amazing opportunity to go to Kansas City, work at a summer camp out there for kids with disabilities. And a light bulb went off for me. Not that I should be an event planner, but that I love the way they were creating this instant community, this connection, and recognizing that my own sister, who has special needs, would always have to leave our community to go to summer camp. And as a project to work for my Gold Award, because I was a Girl Scout at the time, I decided to start a summer camp in my hometown. And right about that time, it was time to think about going away to school and what should you do. And I actually, still event planning, just not on the radar, became a public school teacher. And it was in that first year as a public school teacher that I said to myself, "Ooh, I am not in the right place." So I, started to look at what I was doing, and I was hosting a lot of dinner parties at that time. And friends were like, "This is what you love doing. Food is your thing. You should do this." So I actually launched a catering company while I was still a public school teacher, and ended up at the end of that year leaving school teaching and going to culinary school and keeping going with the catering company, which eventually transformed itself into the event planning company. I did have a couple of other jobs working for a couple of other, I've been a lifetime entrepreneur. I have worked for other companies where I felt I could benefit from training. I worked for a leadership development company. It's where a lot of the systems and structures in my own business came in. And, I still draw on those to this day as an entrepreneur and make a lot of those tools available to my coaching clients. So that was how the event planning business was born. And it was also born at a time when I was living in Los Angeles with my fiance, then became my husband. And we were living there during the last recession in like 2010. And there were no jobs for me to find as someone who moved there without a job. Luckily, we moved there for him who had a job. And so I had planned our wedding. People were like, "You're really good at this. You just, why don't you just do this for people? You made it seem so easy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for something to do." And it was really just to cure my boredom at first. But, there's a natural talent, or, whatever you would want to say about that, a natural gift there. So I'm not somebody who's overwhelmed by details, timelines, or checklists. And I also love to be creative. So it was a really good fit.
You've first of all, I promised you that I'd probably wander off script sometime or another, and I'm going to do it already. But there's a couple things that you've said that I'd really like to tap into and get your perspective, but also help the listeners really understand some of the importance of the things that we do in our life. You said that there was definitely a gift in event planning and bringing it to your current clients. Could you share a little bit about that gift and how you decided or figured out that it was a gift in it?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Right after I had left my catering company to the side to really get some more business experience, I went to work for this leadership development company. And while I was there, I was planning their courses around the world and managing a lot of details, a lot of logistics, a lot of timelines, and a lot of teams. And one of the things that they did was they had courses that were in luxurious, exotic locations for about a week long. There was a course component to it, but there was also a vacation component. And so people had this amazing transformational retreat experience. And I loved doing that. I wanted to basically forget about all of the numbers and the finance and, a big part of my job and really focus on that. And, that didn't end up to being a future for me, but it was something that I just noticed like a spark. And so then when I ended up fast forward a few years in Los Angeles and I'm planning my wedding, the details are coming easy. I mean, I've talked to hundreds of catering managers in my lifetime at this point. And, I just have this way of being able to also map on with what I learned as a teacher, see where people are, recognize what's missing to get them to what the goal is and where they want to go. I just saw this really, really easy way to bring these two lives together and do something that so many people think is overwhelming or daunting when they're trying to tend to, their 9 to 5. And so in the beginning, event planning for me was really specifically focused on wedding planning. In Los Angeles, I was exclusively a wedding planner. It wasn't until moving back to New York and establishing my company here that I became an event planner and started to really broaden the horizon for myself and expand how I related to myself.
And one thing that you shared earlier was you learned fairly quickly that teaching wasn't for you. That wasn't the thing that lit the fire underneath you. What was a gift in teaching?
The gift in teaching for me was really being able to recognize like that. In education, they call it primed background knowledge, the place where everybody's starting from. Recognizing, I was teaching second grade and I was teaching in Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is a very high risk community. So, it gave me a chance to step outside of what I thought everyone was expecting for me at a young age, right? It was a natural segue to go from camp counselor, can't do that year round, I'll become a teacher. And it was almost, expected is the best way to explain it, and very known. But the gift in teaching, I got to really open my heart in that year. I got to really, the public school system, at least in this school, was very, here's the curriculum, teach it exactly the way that it's written, don't deviate. And for me, I got to recognize how much creativity I need as a self-expression in the work that I do, or it lacks fulfillment for me. And I got to be okay with walking away at a really young age. And at the time, it felt like, oh my gosh, am I making a huge mistake? Am I giving everything up? But, everybody's expecting me to do this. And I got to really take stock and lean into trusting myself and just that intuition hit that I was having, that I deserve to be happy and I deserve to do something that I love doing. And it took a little while. I tried a couple of other things. Sometimes when people talk to me, they'll say, you seem like you should be like 60 or 70 years old, but you're not. But, I wasn't afraid to dabble. I wasn't afraid I had a lot of interviews that were exploratory. I didn't mind picking people's brain. I had no problem calling people up and saying, I'm really thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? And I did that for years as I was even dabbling in other things.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, as you said that, there were some things that were expected of you. When you stepped out of the teaching role, what was some of the feedback that you got from those people that expected things from you? Did they push back on it at all? And how did you handle that?
Some people push back. My mom actually asked for her money back that she had paid for college. She didn't really mean it. But, I grew up in you pick something, you do it for the rest of your life, you maybe collect a pension at the end. It was a very middle class upbringing. And there were no business owners. The only person who had owned a business in my, family lineage was a grandfather. And it had ended disastrously. So, basically running a business was risky, and definitely you should do something that had a clear and certain future, but it just wasn't calling to me. And so there were people who were encouraging me to explore my path, to be on my own journey. And during that time, I leaned very heavily on those mentors. My aunt, who's an incredible teacher herself, who had given me all of her materials to bring to my public school classroom, was the biggest supporter and said, I'm going to help you explore this, and helped me do energy work and clear blocks and just really dive into the journey and fully embrace it. So I really turned to those people, and I found it was beneficial to talk about other things with people who didn't quite get what I was doing.
Exactly. I understand for sure. And I've been pulled many times along that path also. One of the things that, as I was doing my research, that came about, and I think this kind of goes in with the fact that you said you were called to, and that calling was pretty strong. Talk to me about, once you step into a calling, your philosophy about being in your business and not just doing your business.
This is huge. And I feel like this is something that has evolved over time. I've felt like I've understood it, and then there have been new levels and new layers of being to step into. And so for me, the first kind of inclination was that I deserve to be happy, that I deserve to be someone who is fulfilled in their profession. And that I am not the kind of person who can survive a career or for a lifetime. So I needed to be thriving. That was a really critical piece for me. And then as I stepped into business ownership, as I stepped into my entrepreneurial roles and endeavors, I really started to see a direct correlation to when I was doing things that were prescriptive, when I was doing things that were templated, what it was everything that the gurus were saying to do, but it wasn't working for me. And when I would shove that aside and just do what felt right, when I was being confident in myself, in my voice, in my intuition, and what I was making available in the world, that's when things would really take off. That's when I was starting to be overwhelmed with the amount of work coming in. So there was a direct correlation, and that really then started to become something that I was sharing in all my business to business meetings with other entrepreneurs, other people in my field. And a lot of those meetings started to end with, could you be my coach? What was that course you said again? Where do I get that meditation technique? And so people started asking me for it. And I again felt like it was time to be open to that. It's calling me. I tried to keep it at a distance for a while. I don't want to say I ran right, head on towards it. I really did. I was very busy as an event planner, and I actually do still have that going and have a team that manages that. I also just feel very, very strongly that who we are in our businesses, who we're being, has a direct impact and a huge impact on our success and the level of success that we can experience, and that being, when it's in alignment with our business purpose, can produce effortless results. So I think, who doesn't want to do things more easily?
Well, and I think that through our lifetimes, like your teaching, like your event planning business, your experience with your aunt, it all brings us to a point where we're realizing that we're lining up with something that truly is much bigger than us. And really what's much bigger than us is that magnificent part of us that came here to share so much in the world. Where Well, let me ask you this first. One of the most important things for me is for people to find your unique purpose. And And in finding that unique purpose, it really opens us up to the alignment that you're talking about. Could you tell me what your definition of unique purpose is, and how you bring people to find that in themselves?
Yeah. So this is usually the beginning of the work that I do with coaching clients. And I couldn't agree more that we have a unique purpose. And I actually say that we're here to discover our unique purpose. We arrive here with it, and it's an unfolding. It is something that is a journey. And once we're clear about that, we can kind of check in with it, on a daily, weekly, monthly, however frequently you check in with it and whatever feels right for you, but to see if the things that you're doing and the actions that you're taking align with that purpose. And when you have that alignment, that's when there's ease and that's when there's grace. And when you are realizing there's some discomfort, there's some, friction, there can either be an evolution point and something that you need to evolve in your thinking and in your mindset, or you might be endeavoring in something that's maybe a little bit out of alignment with your purpose because you're trying to do something that somebody else says you should do, or so I think that is a huge component of being able to gracefully and more elegantly move through life. I actually call it your unique or your bold purpose. Because I'm all for bold. I think it should be a little bit disputable. I think you should have an opinion about it. I think you should be willing to take a stand for it.
Excellent. That's such great advice right there, in taking a stand for who you are and why you're here in the world. Let me ask you this. How do you distinguish between an evolution and maybe being a little off track?
So that's a great question. We could do a whole episode on this. So for me, when I am recognizing that it's feeling uncomfortable, and that I have existing narratives that are a limit to it. So let's say, I'll give you a more concrete example. In my business, let's say I've reached a certain revenue milestone and I've decided that the next, fiscal year, I'm going to hit X amount now. And it's starting to feel like a lot of work. It's starting to feel like a lot of cajoling and convincing and efforting, and things aren't flowing easily. For me, I feel that's an evolutionary, like there's something to expand in my thinking about what's possible for myself. Why did I set this number? Why am I not allowing myself to go past this number, versus something that I'm just doing that's completely wrong? Because I've already done the thinking and I already know that my business is in alignment with me, right? If suddenly I'm having conversations in my business and I just don't enjoy the topic anymore, then my business is maybe out of alignment with my purpose. Then maybe I've evolved past my business and it's time to look at, do I need to create a completely new offering, or am I going to go in a different direction with my business completely?
Excellent. That's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you, what's your bold purpose?
So my bold purpose is to create connection and inspiration. And it's so simple and so bite-sized, and it has allowed me to evolve from business to business. So at first in catering, I was doing very holistic health kind of catering. I was doing private in-home catering. It was very much based on wellness and connection to your food source and being inspired by what's on your plate. And then that evolved into creating connection and community and inspiration within the event world and expanding what's available. I wasn't planning parties and telling people that it would be perfect. There are a bajillion planners out there who are offering perfect parties. What I was offering was curated events that were grounded in meaningful connection. So, that right there, if you just were looking for something shiny, you probably weren't even going to knock on my door, right? So it kind of like filters out. And it was disputable because there's a whole industry built on a lot of other stuff. And now for me, it really is about creating connection and inspiration that goes beyond. It's connection with your intuition. It's connection with the divine. It's connection with, an audience that's ready and willing to receive what you have to offer. And it's inspiring people to take action once they realize that something is for them.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit because what you just described is we're always living our purpose, and we've been living it all the time. We just, as you say, need to discover it. Could you give me an example of one of your clients that you helped discover that they had been living their purpose all along?
Yeah. So I think we all have these hits. We all have these little moments where we get a little insight or a little inkling that, oh, I like that. That feels right. That feels nice. And we very often, especially in the Western world, live in a very logic and prescriptive way. Like it's very driven by facts and figures and what everybody else is tried and true methods. And so we get very used to suppressing those little insights and those little aha moments. And we just kind of write them off. And so what I find is I work with clients, they'll say, I really kind of always knew this. I always knew I liked working, with the body, even though I was working in finance. Or, when I was burnt out in my career in, micro fundraising, I turned to yoga, and that completely transformed my life. And now I want to share that with people. And when they get clear on their life's purpose, there's a bigger piece, a new next step to step into in this next part of their journey.
Yes, for sure. There's, believe it or not, we're getting close to the end of our time, and there's a question that I just have to ask you. Do you remember what book that 15-year-old picked up, or 13-year-old, I think you said?
Oh, I remember it was by Dr. Andrew Weil, and it was, I read a bunch of his right after that. I can't remember the name of it, but I know that it was the one that talked about him being a medical student and discovering holistic medicine when he went to study in the Amazon.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If you could give one piece of parting advice to the listening audience, what would it be?
I would say that we really have a chance to let our personal evolution impact and fuel our business revolution. That our businesses can only be as strong and as evolved as our mindsets are.
And could you give us a couple quick hints on developing your mindset?
Yeah. So when I'm working with business owners, I really love to set them up to every morning out of the gate have a very strong practice that puts their mindset in alignment. So we work on implementing things like, working with meditation, affirmations, visualizations. Journaling is a huge component, whether that is, your gratitude journal where you're tapping into the true abundance that is available in the universe, or whether you're, diving deep and working through, some limiting mindset. There's a writing component that's a huge part of it. And I actually have a journal technique that I can share with your listeners if you want.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to check that out, they can just go to my website, AndreaFreemanConsulting.com/the number 5 minute journal. So AndreaFreemanConsulting.com/5 minute journal.
Awesome. All that information will be available on the show page. Before we call an end to this amazing discussion, something else came up in my research, and I want to ask you about it. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on how important consciousness is in people's businesses.
Ooh, huge, huge. So I feel that there is a lot of talk about consciousness now. I feel like we're at a point now where, especially with the pandemic and everybody being in quarantine, people have really had a chance to tune into their mindset. And they're very often focused on the things that they're aware of, and that there is a lot of our consciousness that is happening in the background, and that consciousness really has those two different distinct parts, right? That conscious awareness, and then there's that subconscious that is being played out that we're not so aware, and that all of that comprises our mindset and completely influences everything that we're doing in our businesses and in our lives. And so if we're looking to evolve that, if we're looking to take any of those results to a new level, that the first thing to go to work on is, it's kind of the work before we do the work, is really our mindset and working on those conscious beliefs and even those subconscious beliefs.
And through that conscious work, the belief system can be reprogrammed fairly easy. The hard part is uncovering some of those beliefs that are so deep that they only show up at that point that we're unaware because we're thinking of something else, and the next thing you know, we've self-sabotaged somehow or another. But those beliefs can be changed, and it's so powerful to understand, as you're saying, that we have that conscious component and unconscious component, and that really in many ways affects everything in our lives, and just the awareness of knowing that we have them has changes the mindset tremendously.
Yeah. And this is actually why I do a lot of affirmation work with my clients, because we will notice our points of discomfort and we will recognize, wow, I felt uncomfortable with this for a while. I don't know why I keep thinking this. And we really keep just reaching back for an old conversation, right? We keep bringing in our default thinking. So and it feels a little bit funny when we start doing it, when we start putting in a new thought, and then start even putting it in before we have the default thought. So I really like to work with a lot of calendar reminders. I can get a little middle school writing it on the mirror. I mean, whatever works. I stick sticky notes on my computer. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that those reminders are there, so that the minute I have a thought that is not serving in my highest version of myself, I can pick up the new thought that I'm actively and consciously trying to create. So the first affirmation I think I ever worked with was, I'm divinely guided and protected. And that was when I started doing that work, when I was leaving teaching and transitioning into catering, and, just really recognizing that I couldn't go wrong.
Just knowing you're guided and protected opens up so many doors, and it allows you to step into the unknown in a way that many people won't. So thank you for that little bit of guidance also.
Oh, absolutely. I love this stuff.
You shared your website. Is there any other way that people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm really active over there. So if anybody wants to keep in touch in that space, that is @Freeman_Insta. And that's where you can have a little bit more of a dialogue with me.
And once again, I'll make all that information available on Andrea's show page. Just go to themiracleyou.com, and all that information will be available, as well as this episode with Andrea Freeman. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate who you are and what you're bringing to the world. And I've got a feeling that I'm going to be getting in touch with you again, and so we can do another one of these and go into a little more depth of all the amazing things that you're bringing to the world.
Oh, thanks for having me. That would be so fantastic.
Oh, it's my pleasure. On behalf of Mary, my business partner, my wife, and the entire Imagine Miracles crew, we want to wish you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind-awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.